Hey, Wagwan, welcome to the channel. This is where we talk about childhood memories and specifically my memories as they were growing up into the 60s and into the 70s. Now, we talk about a lot of stuff on this channel, from just basic life experiences as kids, the pranks, the food we ate, going to school back then, a whole range of topics. So if you're happening here for the first time, stick around because we have a lot to talk about. All right. Today I want to talk about a staple food that was um, found that is found in Jamaica back then, and I'm assuming up to today, and that is flour. Now, if you grew up in Jamaica, and I'm assuming other parts of the Caribbean probably, we love our dumpling, right? We love dumplings, right? You know, I can recall as a kid growing back up, back in the 60s, early 70s. Um, Most of the food that people ate, at least in my village, were produce. People, the kind of stuff people had were mainly stuff that the local farmers grew. The crops, food from the crops that were grown around the time and reaped for food. So back then we would have we ate a lot of yams, whole variety of yams. You know, Yellow yam, tar yam, white yam, renta yam, Saint Vincent as they would call it. The purple yam. Yeah, good all kind of yam, man. Sweet potato, dasheen, cocoa, or some countries they call it edo, sweet cassava, green banana, pumpkins, a whole lot of those were those were generally speaking most of the kind of food that we had as kids growing up back then. Um, Rice was not a very common thing, right? Occasionally, as time progresses, getting out of the 70s into the 80s, people would be more inclined to have rice. But rice was almost a luxury item back then. So, in addition to all those kind of produce that I mentioned earlier, the ground provisions, um, one of the common staple that a lot of people had were dumplings, right? Big old, we're not talking about the little dumplings that people put in soup nowadays, or dumplings that the from the Asian community, specifically the Chinese dumplings. We're talking about 60s and 70s Jamaican dumpling. We call them cartwheel, big dumpling, man, right? So in addition to the yam and the cocoa and the dasheen and the pumpkin that was in the pot cooking, you would have several dumplings in there cooking too, right? So so dumplings, or should I say flour, was a common staple back then. Um, it's something that we would love to have every day. Back then, I would love. Man, if there was a meal, if there was a dinner, and there was no dumpling, it never felt complete. It felt like something was missing. It felt like something was really missing, man. As kids, we love our dumplings, right? Um, and you get two dumplings sometimes in a dinner, and occasionally you would leave one for overnight. to have as breakfast the next morning. Because that was whole life was back then. You never, when you get your dinner, right, remember to leave some. I'd leave a piece of yam, or leave a dumpling to put on the charcoal the next morning after the tea was made, right? That was what we had, with maybe a slice or two or a whole avocado, to go to school, before we go to school. But let's get back to the meat of the matter, which is the dumpling. So I recall back in the 70s, there was flour coming from different parts. I'm not sure where flour came from to Jamaica. I'm assuming it was from the United States, but they came in big cloth bags. I think each bag would have weighed maybe 50 pounds or maybe 100 pounds. I think 100 pounds, yeah, 100 pounds of flour. Just like the sugar bags, the brown sugar, the bags that brown sugar came in, I think they were 100 pounds. And so when the flour came to the shops, the little shops in our villages, the shopkeeper would, had these these wooden containers, right? With a lid that they would, with different compartments, and they would, in one area you would have the flour, another area it would be cornmeal, another area would be rice, or another area would be sugar, right? And maybe salt. Okay, so when you go to the shop as a kid, say my grandmother asked me to buy some flour, maybe a pound of flour or 2 pounds of flour. You go to the shop, you say, Mr. So and so, can I have 2 pounds of flour? And he would get a brown paper bag. As time got modern, there were plastic bags came on the scene, but when I was growing up, it was mostly brown paper bag. And I can recall people used to use, some of the shopkeepers used to use newspaper, especially to wrap salt and maybe saltfish, the codfish, so, but for the most part, flour would be in brown paper bags or plastic bags. So, he would measure it out using a scoop. He would scoop up the flour, pour it in that little brown paper bag, put it on the scale to weigh it, check it, if it's over, then he would scoop out some, and just until he got the right weight, 2 pounds. And so that was how, we purchased our food back then, in these little villages around the country. Just little shops, with shopkeepers who would buy stuff in wholesale and retail it to the community. So I can recall one time in the 70s, man, I don't know what happened, but a shipment of flour came to Jamaica. A shipment of flour arrived in Jamaica, and the flour was contaminated, seriously contaminated, to the point that it was poisonous, right? The flour was poisonous. This is my mom calling. Yeah, so the flour was poisonous, and this batch of flour, I don't remember the brand, if it was the Lionhead brand. You might recall if you're watching this video. But this batch of flour circulated through the island, and I can tell you, man, it was panic in Jamaica around that time. Total panic. Because Jamaicans love the flour. People were buying flour and getting sick. A few people died from it. And it was sheer panic and hysteria. when you think about the fact that, you know, flour was such an important part of most people's meals, and you go to the shop and you like to buy some flour, and you can't, I mean, it took a long time before, a couple of months, well, before people were comfortable enough to start eating dumplings again without fear. You know, it took quite a while, man. But I can recall as a kid, man, this was a challenging period in Jamaica when, you know, the flour was contaminated. It was poisonous. I don't know how or what kind of contaminant I was a child back then, so I wasn't really thinking about. All we knew was that nobody wanted to eat dumplings anymore because of the poison flour. So it was sheer chaos. And it took quite a while before people were confident and feel comfortable enough to start buying flour again and, you know, enjoying our dumplings once more. So I don't know if you have ever, I don't know if you have ever encountered anything like this. You know, growing up as a child, you may not be from Jamaica, you may be from some other Caribbean island, you may be from North America, Asia. This world is big and the internet is everywhere. So wherever you're watching this video from, I'd like to hear your experiences, right? I'd like to hear your memories about, you know, similar experiences, you know? So leave a word in the comment, you know, tell me about it. And if this is something that, you know, you like hearing about, if this is a topic that, you know, is of interest to you, because we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff, a lot of childhood memories. This is something that interests you. Hit the subscribe button. All right. So until we talk again, take care of yourself. Stay safe. It's April of 2021, and that thing is still circulating around the place. So stay safe. All right.